Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to another eye-opening lecture. Before we dive in, I have a small favor to ask. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing to my channel to support the effort I put into these sessions. Now picture this scenario I see over and over again. You wake up in the morning, glance at your stomach, and notice it feels bloated, your waistline thicker than it should be. You've been eating better, maybe fasting, perhaps even exercising, yet that stubborn belly fat refuses to budge. You stand there frustrated, asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? Here's the crucial truth I want you to understand right away. This isn't a discipline problem. It isn't about calories, and it's certainly not because your body is broken. What most people don't realize is that the first 45 to 60 minutes after waking are pivotal. They determine whether your body burns visceral fat or stores it for the entire day. The master switch controlling this process is a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol often gets a bad reputation as the stress hormone, but that's misleading. Cortisol is vital. It wakes you up, mobilizes energy, and helps you navigate your day. The issue isn't cortisol itself, it's its rhythm. When that rhythm is disrupted, losing belly fat becomes incredibly difficult. As you wake, your body experiences what's known as the cortisol awakening response. Cortisol naturally rises to transition you from sleep into full activity. This is normal biology. The problem arises in how you handle this critical window. Visceral fat, the fat wrapped around your organs, is highly sensitive to cortisol. If cortisol spikes chaotically, triggered by stress or artificial stimuli, your body interprets it as danger. And when your body senses danger, it instinctively stores fat around the abdomen. That explains why some people do everything right during the day, yet struggle to shed belly fat. They've already lost the battle before breakfast. Many people wake up dehydrated, immediately grab their phones, flood their minds with notifications and stress, and then pour caffeine on top of an already elevated cortisol level. It's no wonder they crash later, feel anxious, and can't lose visceral fat. This morning routine signals to your nervous system that the world is unsafe. And when the body feels unsafe, it doesn't burn fat, it preserves energy. Fat loss isn't triggered by effort, it's triggered by safety. When the nervous system feels calm, supported, and predictable, enzymes that release fat become active. When it feels threatened, those enzymes shut down. That's why belly fat shouldn't be treated like an enemy. You don't fight visceral fat. You convince your body it no longer needs it. And that conversation begins the moment you wake up. In today's session, I'm going to guide you through a simple science-based morning routine designed to signal safety to your nervous system. This isn't about motivation or discipline. It's biology. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that red subscribe button and leave a like if you find this helpful. Let's begin with the first step you should take immediately upon waking, before coffee, before your phone, before anything else. This single action instantly reduces stress signaling and primes your body to release belly fat instead of storing it. Hydration comes first, but not in the way most people think. After 6 to 10 hours without water during sleep, your body is dehydrated. Your organs have been working, detoxifying, repairing tissues, and regulating fluids. Blood volume is slightly lower, which alone can spike cortisol. Remember, cortisol rises not only from emotional stress, but from physical stress as well. Dehydration is a stress signal. When your body detects low fluid levels, it releases cortisol to maintain blood pressure and blood sugar, instructing visceral fat to stay put. The first step in a fat-burning morning is proper hydration that reduces stress signaling. I don't mean chugging cold water, sugary drinks, or energy beverages. I mean water with minerals, sodium, potassium, magnesium. These aren't optional. They're essential electrical signals for nerves, muscles, and hormones. When electrolytes are low, your nervous system remains on edge. A glass of water with a pinch of natural salt or a clean, sugar-free electrolyte mix signals stability. Blood volume improves, blood pressure stabilizes, and cortisol no longer needs to surge. This isn't theory, it's physiology. When cortisol settles early, fat-burning enzymes activate. Hormone-sensitive lipase, which releases fat from storage, works best when stress hormones are balanced. Many people report feeling calmer within minutes of proper morning hydration. And that's not placebo. It's the nervous system responding to safety. This one step alone can transform your entire day. Once you've handled hydration properly, the next step is one of the most underestimated tools for fat loss: morning sunlight. Light isn't just something your eyes see, it's information for your brain. Morning sunlight tells your body what time it is and helps regulate hormone cycles. When natural light enters your eyes first thing in the morning, it resets your circadian clock. Cortisol rises in a controlled, predictable way, then falls appropriately later in the day. Without this light signal, cortisol can remain elevated longer than necessary, which directly encourages stubborn belly fat. You don't need to stare at the sun or perform complicated exercises. Simply spend 10 to 15 minutes outside. Even on cloudy days, natural light intensity far exceeds indoor lighting. This brief exposure tells your brain that the day has begun naturally. Melatonin shuts off properly, and cortisol follows its healthy curve. Establishing this rhythm is essential for fat loss, sleep quality, and insulin sensitivity. Visceral fat thrives in hormonal chaos, but shrinks in rhythmic stability. So hydration with minerals followed by morning sunlight lays the foundation. You haven't burned fat yet, but you've removed the roadblocks. If you're still following along, drop a yes in the comments so I know who's actively listening. And if this session is valuable so far, leave a like. It motivates me to share more lectures like this. Now let's talk about coffee. Many well-intentioned people sabotage this process by drinking coffee immediately upon waking, even while fasting. Coffee isn't the enemy. It has benefits. It improves insulin sensitivity, supports liver function, and can enhance fat oxidation. The problem isn't coffee itself, it's the timing. Cortisol naturally rises after waking, giving you alertness and energy. Adding caffeine on top of that spike forces cortisol even higher. Your nervous system interprets this as overstimulation. Initially, you may feel sharp and energized, but later cortisol crashes. This leads to irritability, sugar cravings, energy dips, and even encourages visceral fat storage. Delaying caffeine by 60 to 90 minutes allows cortisol to rise and fall naturally. So when caffeine is introduced, it supports energy instead of hijacking it. This is not about suffering. It's about aligning with hormonal timing. People who delay caffeine report more stable energy, fewer cravings, reduced anxiety, and better focus. Their nervous system operates efficiently rather than reactively. After hydration, sunlight, and delayed caffeine, the next signal to give your body is movement, but not the type most people assume. I'm not talking about high-intensity workouts. In fact, intense exercise first thing in the morning spikes cortisol further, which can backfire for those trying to lose visceral fat. The kind of movement that lowers stress and activates fat burning is low-intensity forward walking. Walking at a steady pace feels calming for a reason. When your eyes take in rhythmic visual input, the brain interprets it as progress and safety. Evolutionarily, forward walking signaled exploration, migration, or gathering, not danger. This relaxation of the nervous system stabilizes cortisol. When cortisol stabilizes, fat release enzymes stay active and fat storage enzymes remain inactive. Even 10 to 20 minutes of gentle walking has a powerful impact. You don't need to track steps or break a sweat. This is why morning walkers often see a reduction in belly fat without changing their diet. The signal, not calories, is what matters. Finally, there's a hidden habit quietly sabotaging this entire process: our phones. What you do with your phone immediately after waking is more influential than most realize. When you check notifications, messages, news, or social media, your brain floods with dopamine. Dopamine isn't a pleasure hormone, it's a motivation and anticipation hormone. These dopamine spikes trigger cortisol in chaotic, unpredictable ways, and unpredictability signals threat to the nervous system. Do you check your phone first thing in the morning? Be honest. This simple habit can disrupt the fragile hormonal window after waking. Avoiding early phone use isn't about discipline. It's about protecting your biology. Delaying phone interaction for 30 to 60 minutes allows cortisol to follow its natural curve, keeps fat-burning enzymes accessible, and improves focus throughout the day. Combine hydration with minerals, morning sunlight, delayed caffeine, gentle walking, and delayed phone use, and something remarkable happens. Your body shifts out of defensive mode. When the body is not defending, it repairs. Visceral fat becomes accessible as fuel. Free fatty acids are processed efficiently by the liver, and inflammation begins to decrease. By midday, many notice a flatter abdomen, not from water loss, but from reduced stress-driven fat retention. These steps don't force fat loss. They remove resistance. Your body already knows how to burn visceral fat. It just needs the right signals. Once those morning signals are consistently in place, something remarkable starts happening inside your body, changes most people never notice. The liver, which is essentially your metabolic command center, begins to shift its behavior. When cortisol and insulin are unstable in the morning, the liver stays in storage mode. It keeps producing glucose, packaging fat, and essentially feeding the visceral fat you're trying to lose. But when your nervous system senses safety instead of threat, the liver receives a completely different message. Insulin stays low and stable. Cortisol follows its natural curve rather than spiking erratically, and the liver switches from hoarding energy to releasing it. This is the moment visceral fat finally becomes available as fuel. Visceral fat isn't passive tissue, it's hormonally active. It releases inflammatory molecules called cytokines, which interfere with insulin signaling and keep the body in a low-grade stress state. As long as that fat remains protected, your body behaves as if danger is still present. But when the liver starts pulling free fatty acids from visceral fat in a calm, regulated way, inflammation begins to fall. Triglyceride levels improve, fatty liver reverses, and insulin sensitivity at the muscle level increases. People don't necessarily feel this as weight loss at first. Instead, they experience a sense of ease. Hunger quiets down, energy stabilizes, and the afternoon crash disappears. This isn't about eating differently. It's about your liver finally cooperating with your biology. Hormonal shifts also play a critical role. Leptin, the hormone that tells your brain you have enough stored energy, begins to function properly again. Visceral fat often creates leptin resistance, meaning your brain can't read the signal and you remain hungry even when your body has energy available. As visceral fat breaks down, leptin sensitivity returns, making appetite regulation automatic. People often tell me, "Doctor, I don't think about food as much anymore." And this isn't willpower, it's restored hormonal signaling. Another hormone, adiponectin, also rises. Produced by healthy fat tissue, adiponectin improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, and supports cardiovascular health. Visceral fat suppresses adiponectin, so its reduction allows this hormone to return, further supporting fat loss and metabolic balance. Even cortisol itself becomes healthier. Remember, cortisol isn't a bad hormone, it's essential. But when constantly elevated, it directs fat to the abdomen. Once its rhythm is restored, cortisol supports energy and alertness without driving fat storage. That's why your morning routine influences far more than just the first hour of the day. It sets the hormonal tone for the next 12 hours. Over time, your mitochondria, the energy factories inside your cells, begin to recover. Chronic stress and insulin resistance can damage mitochondria, making fat burning inefficient and causing fatigue. As your metabolism restores, mitochondria relearn how to burn fat cleanly. Energy production improves, exercise feels easier, and recovery accelerates. This isn't aggressive fat loss, it's metabolic rehabilitation. And when metabolism is restored, visceral fat no longer has a place to hide. This morning routine also makes fasting easier. People often feel less bloated and more energized within days. That's because the gut and brain start cooperating once stress signaling is reduced. Surprisingly, even without directly targeting the digestive system, the gut responds to hormonal balance. Chronic cortisol elevation affects gut permeability, blood flow, and the microbiome. When cortisol is stabilized in the morning, blood flow improves, the gut lining begins to repair, and beneficial bacteria repopulate. People notice less bloating, more regular digestion, and a flatter abdomen, all without changing calories. This is not just cosmetic, it reflects reduced inflammatory load. As gut health improves, communication between the gut and brain strengthens through the vagus nerve. Improved vagal tone supports digestion, immune regulation, and emotional stability. This is why fasting often feels easier when paired with the right morning signals. Hunger becomes predictable, energy steadier, and the body no longer feels like it's in constant battle mode. Stress-driven hunger spikes and random cravings diminish. The immune system also benefits. Visceral fat is immunologically active, constantly stimulating inflammatory pathways. As it breaks down, immune signaling quiets and markers like CRP, interleukin-6, and TNF-alpha decrease. Joint pain improves, skin conditions calm, and autoimmune symptoms lessen. Even the brain experiences benefits. Reduced inflammation improves blood-brain barrier integrity, enhances mental clarity, and stabilizes mood. Depression and anxiety often ease. None of this is forced. The morning routine doesn't directly burn fat. It removes the hormonal interference that blocks it. Focusing solely on calories misses the point. Trying to solve a hormonal problem with arithmetic simply doesn't work. Biology responds to signals, not force. When your nervous system perceives safety, fat storage becomes unnecessary and fat release occurs naturally. Now that we've explored the internal changes, let's focus on how to integrate these signals practically into your mornings to make fat loss effortless and sustainable. The key is consistency, not intensity. Hydration with minerals, morning sunlight, delayed caffeine, gentle forward walking, and delayed phone use all send the same message to your nervous system. The environment is safe, the day is predictable. When your body receives these signals repeatedly, they reinforce each other. Over days and weeks, your metabolism begins operating in a calm, efficient way. Cortisol stabilizes, insulin remains responsive, and fat release enzymes stay active. Visceral fat stops being an emergency energy reserve and becomes accessible for fuel naturally. This alignment also transforms how you experience energy and hunger throughout the day. Instead of feeling jittery after coffee, crashing in the afternoon, or constantly battling cravings, energy becomes steady and hunger predictable. Ghrelin, the hormone responsible for hunger, no longer spikes randomly. Your body learns when it actually needs fuel and when it doesn't. People often describe this as a quieting of their appetite. They're no longer at the mercy of stress-driven cravings. It's not about willpower, it's about the body functioning as it was designed to function. Another remarkable effect is on your brain. When cortisol and stress are regulated in the morning, cognitive clarity improves. You notice sharper focus, better decision-making, and less reactive thinking. Emotional stability increases because the nervous system isn't on high alert. Over time, this has a compounding effect. Your brain can handle daily stressors without triggering unnecessary cortisol spikes, which previously sabotaged fat loss and energy levels. Morning routines like this aren't just about physical change. They reshape the way your body and mind respond to stress. As these morning signals are repeated, your metabolism itself begins to improve in efficiency. The liver, as mentioned earlier, switches from storing energy to releasing it. Mitochondria regain their ability to burn fat cleanly. Free fatty acids are mobilized and processed effectively. Inflammation decreases at a systemic level. People notice improvements in digestion, less bloating, and a reduction in abdominal circumference without making drastic dietary changes. Even skin conditions improve, joint discomfort eases, and overall vitality increases. This isn't magic. It's physiology responding to consistent, predictable signals of safety. It's important to emphasize that these steps are not about pushing yourself or creating stress. Fat loss doesn't require extreme exercise, fasting beyond what's comfortable, or complicated supplementation. In fact, overexertion can backfire, triggering cortisol spikes and reinforcing fat storage. Instead, the goal is alignment. Align your hormones, your nervous system, and your circadian rhythm. When your biology is in harmony, fat loss becomes a side effect of normal daily life. Many people make the mistake of thinking motivation or discipline drives results. The truth is that motivation is fleeting and discipline is exhausting. Biology, however, responds predictably to the right signals. By creating a calm, structured morning routine, you give your body the opportunity to operate at peak efficiency. This is why people often say, "Doctor, I'm not forcing it anymore. My body just seems to know what to do." That knowing is biology functioning correctly. Your nervous system no longer perceives threat. Your liver releases energy, your gut and brain communicate efficiently, and your hormones signal abundance instead of scarcity. One subtle yet powerful reinforcement is avoiding early digital stimulation. By keeping phones, emails, and social media away until after the nervous system has stabilized, you prevent chaotic cortisol and dopamine spikes that sabotage metabolism. This helps maintain the hormonal window you've created with hydration, sunlight, walking, and delayed caffeine. Even 30 to 60 minutes of delayed digital engagement can make a profound difference in how your day unfolds. The cumulative effect of these steps is transformative. You stop fighting your body. Visceral fat no longer acts as a protective barrier against perceived threat. The body shifts into repair mode. Inflammation drops, energy stabilizes, appetite normalizes, fat loss is no longer a struggle. It becomes a natural, inevitable outcome. And when this routine is maintained consistently, these benefits don't just last for hours. They set the tone for the entire day and eventually your overall metabolic health. As these morning practices become habitual, the benefits extend far beyond just fat loss. One of the most profound shifts happens in your immune system. Visceral fat is not inert. It actively produces inflammatory molecules that keep your body in a constant state of low-grade stress. When the morning routine stabilizes cortisol and reinforces safety signals, this inflammatory cascade quiets down. Markers such as CRP, interleukin-6, and TNF-alpha begin to drop. People notice reduced joint stiffness, calmer skin, and fewer autoimmune flare-ups. This is not cosmetic improvement. It's a true physiological restoration. Your body is no longer in defensive overdrive, which allows energy to be allocated toward repair rather than protection. At the same time, the gut continues to respond dramatically even without direct intervention. The digestive system thrives once stress is reduced. Cortisol impacts gut permeability, blood flow, and microbial composition. When stress is mitigated through proper morning routines, blood flow improves, the intestinal lining strengthens, and beneficial gut bacteria begin to flourish. This enhances digestion, reduces bloating, and supports a healthier inflammatory profile. People often describe this as feeling lighter, less sluggish, and more energetic within days of consistent practice. A healthy gut also strengthens communication with the brain via the vagus nerve, supporting emotional stability, focus, and resilience to stress throughout the day. Another key benefit is appetite regulation. When visceral fat shrinks and leptin signaling is restored, hunger becomes predictable and manageable. You stop feeling constantly at the mercy of cravings or stress-driven appetite spikes. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, begins following a predictable rhythm. Fasting, intermittent or otherwise, becomes significantly easier. Not because of willpower, but because your body finally knows when it actually needs fuel. Energy stabilizes, mood improves, and cravings for sugar or processed foods decrease naturally. This is why many people report that once they implement these morning signals, they no longer struggle with dieting or feeling deprived. Beyond metabolism and appetite, the hormonal improvements extend to fat-burning efficiency. Adiponectin, a protective hormone suppressed by visceral fat, increases as abdominal fat decreases. It improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, and enhances cardiovascular function. Cortisol itself, when regulated, supports alertness and energy rather than driving fat storage. Over weeks and months, this hormonal alignment reshapes metabolism, creating a body that naturally burns fat without forcing it. Mitochondria recover, producing energy more efficiently. Exercise feels easier, recovery is faster, and overall endurance improves. This is metabolic rehabilitation at its core, restoring your body's ability to use energy efficiently and safely. At a behavioral level, these morning routines also reinforce mental clarity and emotional balance. Reduced cortisol spikes from hydration, sunlight, walking, delayed caffeine, and delayed phone use create a calmer nervous system. Stress becomes manageable rather than overwhelming. Decision-making improves, focus sharpens, and emotional reactivity decreases. Over time, this stability allows people to stick to healthy habits effortlessly, because their nervous system is no longer hijacked by early morning stress. Consistency is critical. It is the repeated alignment of these signals, hydration, sunlight, gentle movement, controlled caffeine intake, and limited early digital stimulation, that trains your body to perceive safety. Safety signals unlock fat-burning pathways, repair inflammation, stabilize hormones, and enhance overall health. Visceral fat, which once seemed resistant despite diet and exercise, gradually becomes mobilized because your biology is finally cooperating with your intentions.